we don't really know where the world is gonna go. But now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long. Got to keep. But now everybody knows. Got to keep.
You don't have to be retired to receive tax-free income. The problem is the vehicles that we've been conditioned to believe to help get us there were never designed to produce income.
Got to keep going. What you want to be going, you will see. It's your destiny, be in harmony. We were never meant to be apart. What you want to be going, you will see. You can have everything you want. It's your destiny, be in harmony.
If you had a machine in your garage and all you had to do was put a quarter in it and it printed out $100, a quarter in it, printed out $100, would you ever stop that machine from running?
But now everybody knows.
So what if you use that job that you hate as leverage to fill your machine so they can create income for you, so you don't have to worry about income?
We know where the world is gonna go. But now everybody knows that you can't stop for too long. Got to keep going.
Good evening and welcome back. For some of you, welcome for the rest of you who are new here. If you're new here and you haven't jumped in the chat, please do. We've got a whole fam going down in there, and it's a lot of fun to meet with others who are on the same journey as you. If you are on your debt reduction journey, you're in the right place. Tonight, we're going to go all the way back to the beginning and to talk about velocity banking and where it starts. What is it and why does it work? How are people using it? What are the results that we're seeing? And why is this such a powerful tool? For a lot of people, they need to first understand the concept and have that understanding be really strong because we're talking about leverage, and everything else that we talk about here on this channel kind of revolves around leverage, just as a general concept. So that's why we love velocity banking and the strategy of it, because you can use this same type of strategy to build wealth after you freed up some cash flow. So that's what we're talking about. So if you are riddled in debt, if you feel like you're drowning in debt, if you feel like, I don't know how I'm going to ever pay off all of this debt, this is going to help you out. So you ready to jump in?
Yeah, let's do it. So it's interesting. I get asked often, hey, where's a video you can point me to kind of help me understand or explain what velocity banking is? And, I assume we've done as many times we talked about velocity banking, as much as we've gone over this. I don't know that there's one video that kind of just breaks down all of the bits and pieces. So hopefully this serves as that, because otherwise we end up sending people to a 2-hour live stream that kind of talks about I'll call it a scenario where we use velocity banking to be able to accomplish a goal. But that video really didn't just sit on breaking down what velocity banking is. So hopefully this also serves as a video for later for those who just want to understand, like, what do I do? Like, what do the steps look like? Hopefully this will serve as that as well.
Yeah. And just as a reminder for those who are like, I cannot sit here and watch. I can't. It's fun when you attend live. It's not as fun when you're watching the replay. We now have someone helping us to edit the live streams into shorter lessons so that the meat, right? We cut out all the fat, all the fluff, and we just serve up what's important out of the live stream in a video form. So if you've seen us start posting those, then that's why we're doing that, because it's a lot easier for people to share and also to recap or watch what it is we're teaching out here. So okay, so velocity banking 101. What is it? Why should you learn about it? And how can it benefit you? So that's what we're going to talk about. And let me find it. Here we go. Okay, here we go.
So velocity banking. Again, we talk about velocity banking specifically on this channel a lot. But specifically, what is it? And why should you even care about it? The bottom line, it's a strategy. It's a strategy that's designed to eliminate debt. And how do you eliminate that debt? Meaning, there are many different strategies that are focused on or will allow you to be able to eliminate that debt. But this is using leverage, using a leverage vehicle, also known as a debt tool, to actually address that debt. And two things happen. One, you're able to address the debt faster. And the other is you're able to get multiple uses out of the same dollar. And I say this a lot, but I don't think most people believe me when I say it, meaning you're able to use a dollar more than one time to address multiple debts. And we'll kind of walk through how that even comes about. Um, but primary focus again, the primary focus is to overall reduce debt and put yourself in a position to where you're actually in a much better credit worthy position to be able to do other things that you're trying to do, meaning be able to accomplish other goals. So we're going to dig into a lot of that. Now, what do you need to be able to do velocity banking? Like, what's required? Well, obviously got to have income. If there's no income, it's very difficult to pay off debt if you don't have income. But it's also identifying what the order of operations is. That income traditionally goes into a checking account, and what we normally do is we pay bills out of it. But what we're looking to do is introduce a debt tool, and this debt tool can be one of these items. So you can absolutely use something that you have in existence already to be able to become that debt tool, and we're going to leverage that debt tool to then pay our bills and ultimately the cash flow. To me, when you're talking about velocity banking, I tend to oversimplify things. In simple form, what is velocity banking? Velocity banking is when you focus on eliminating I'll call it the balance on a debt tool, and then you use that debt tool to chunk away at other debts. Meaning, it's kind of overwhelming when you think of eliminating all of your debt. Like, that's a lot. But to me, I tend to oversimplify things. To me, it's really your income is focused on driving down one debt. And that debt is the debt of the debt tool, meaning the focus is to eliminate the balance on this debt tool, and then you use that balance to be able to do other things. And I think the proof is in the pudding. We've done this a lot. We've talked about it a lot. We've talked about it a lot on this channel. And Angelique just kind of went through some of the thumbnails and kind of identified what were some of the opportunities that we've been able to address. And I think this is a small sample size of what we've actually been able to accomplish, meaning in just sharing this information for free. There's not some paid consultation that you need. There's not some program that you have to purchase to be able to do velocity banking. If you just spend a little bit of time on this channel, we'll break down all of the pieces of the puzzle. And through just simply, I'll call it taking action on some of these activities, a lot of the people that are probably sitting in the chat right now have been able to eliminate a fair amount of debt. And we just wanted to kind of highlight one of them, which just kind of highlighted, you know what? After just taking some very simple actions, putting themselves in a position to have a debt tool and watching us for a short period of time, they were able to pay off a significant amount of credit card debt within the first few weeks. And ultimately, within an 8-week period, eliminate $16.5 thousand in credit card debt. And what I appreciated about this comment was, this is an entrepreneur, just like me, just like Angelique and I, meaning our income fluctuates. And when your income fluctuates, you can get yourself in a situation where, although you may have leveraged this credit card or leveraged this debt to be able to address something in month A, month B, your income may not look the same. And because your income doesn't necessarily look the same, that debt can end up growing pretty quickly. So being able to put yourself in a position where you have now a vehicle that you can leverage, take advantage of to be able to pay off debt timely is critical. And so again, if you spend some time on our channel, you will see that we talk about this a lot. Go ahead, sweetheart.
I was waiting for you to be done. I was just going to say there are quite a few people out here who are sharing a software that claims to do velocity banking for you automatically or automagically. It doesn't. It tells you it tells you what to do, and then maybe it can save you some money. However, you don't need to purchase software. You don't need to go further in debt. This is the old like college mentality, right? Like let's go $100,000 in debt and then we can get a better job. And a lot of people are realizing now that's not the case. There's just a lot of I will say there's there's a market out there for velocity banking. And that's all I'll say about it. But these people have gotten over here. These people have gotten these results because they learned how to do this. And it's easy to learn how to do this. So I want to encourage anybody who's thinking to themselves like, I don't know, I watched a few videos and this feels overwhelming. It sounds nice that something could help me make these decisions. And while that could be very nice, this isn't something that's complicated to learn. And I think that the thought that it's complicated prevents a lot of people from learning how to do this. So if I can learn it, I know anybody else can learn it. And if they can get these types of results, what kind of results can you get? Can't wait to hear. And this is just a fraction of who we've served, as we've talked to hundreds of people every single month. So I couldn't, of course, if I put all of them up there, we couldn't read the numbers. So I'm proud of these people. We didn't include their names, of course, but I'm proud of every single one of them because they started, they took action. So let them encourage you, and let's talk about how it works and why they were able to implement. Yeah.
All right. And how does it work? And I think this is there are several, I'll call it analogies we use on our channel. And these aren't traditionally, these are not analogies that I came up with. These are analogies that my wife comes up with. And I think this one, like we've talked about velocity banking a lot, but if you were just to put it in its simplest form, what is it? It's about you using some form of a debt tool, you're using your cash flow to be able to eliminate debt. And if Pac-Man isn't a perfect example of what that looks like, meaning as you eliminate that debt, as you are eating away at that debt, what does it do? It puts you in a position to where you are paying less and less interest over time. So you're keeping that interest at bay. And the longer you can keep that interest at bay, the more and more cash flow you have, which means the more and more debt you're able to eliminate. And as that cash flow continues to increase, you get to a point where your cash flow is, I call it, so excessive. There's so much cash flow available to you, it almost doesn't even matter what the interest is. Meaning it puts you in a position to where not only are you able to keep the interest at bay, but you can also eliminate that interest as that cash flow continues to grow. So I think this is a pretty good analogy of, okay, how does it work? If you put yourself in the proper position, meaning using a debt tool effectively to be able to eliminate or chew up or capture or recapture cash flow, then what you're able to do is reduce the amount of interest that you're paying over time and ultimately put yourself in a position to where you can also accomplish your true goals, which may be retire early or paying off your home or whatever those, I'll call it those big goals are, putting yourself in a position to where you have the cash flow to be able to do so. Go ahead, sweetheart.
One of my favorite things, and thank you for that, because I really enjoy coming up with analogies of how to explain things here on our channel. That really is fun for me. It's the fun part for me. This particular example, though, I think hits because remember when you get those little cherries, those strawberries, the cherries, right, the bananas, yeah, all those. That's almost like getting the points, the rewards that you get from the points just for using your debt tool. We're programmed to believe that using credit is bad and we only use credit when we need to, and it's like a bad thing. But when you start using credit at the rate that you are in velocity banking, you can start to, depending on your debt tool, you can start to accumulate points really fast. Those points get you free stuff. So it's almost like, getting these rewards in here that give you a superpower, a supercharge, because getting, for us, it was really expensive to take a family of 6 on vacation, right? Super expensive. Right. But these types of fruit, I would say, of our labor in learning these concepts and implementing them were free rental cars for the week that we went on vacation. It was free rooms. It was free tickets, like plane tickets, right? It was however we wanted to use those points, or depending on the card that we were using, we were able to do things that we would not have been able to do had we just been paying cash and debit, and was actually making it easier for us to do way more than it would have if we would have done what traditionally, just paying cash would have done. We would have paid more. And I'm talking a significant amount more, because the amount of groceries just at the grocery store, and the gas, and the points that came from that alone, just using the credit card, and we're paying the debt down fast, so it doesn't matter. But if you're going to use your debit card, you might as well be getting something in return. So using it in a smart way, you're working smarter, not harder, and you get some bonuses.
Well said. Well said. And again, the more and more cash flow you create, the faster the debt is eliminated. The faster the debt is eliminated, the more the interest is kept at bay. The more the interest is kept at bay, the more and more cash flow you're able to accumulate. So it's a snowball effect, meaning things just continue to compound. And the more they compound, the faster you are able to get yourself out of those debt-related situations. But let's talk about where most people are educated in how to eliminate debt. Traditionally, it looks something like this, meaning income comes into our checking account. And when it comes to into our checking account, we pay our debts from that checking account. That's traditionally how we've been educated to be able to pay our bills. But let's think that through. When that income comes into our checking account and we pay that bill, do we have any access to the income that was put or placed onto that bill? Meaning, do I have any access to that dollar once it leaves my checking account? I don't. And what ends up happening is hopefully there's cash flow left over. And if there's cash flow left over, that cash flow tends to sit where? In the checking account that it left. In the checking account that the income came into. Well, what tends to happen for most of us when we have extra money sitting in our checking account? Do we focus on leveraging that checking account to be able to address more debt? Well, in some cases, we might be putting an extra dollar amount on our mortgage, or an extra dollar amount on our bill. But the moral of the story is the cash flow that's sitting in that checking account tends to go away. Or for some of us, we might be smart enough to then place that into a savings account, right? But how much, right? How much interest are you earning with that cash flow sitting in that savings account? Somewhere between 1%, maybe 0.01%, or some of us might have a high yield savings account. That's awesome. But how much interest are you making on that money sitting in your checking? How about nothing? The idea behind velocity banking is this. Instead of allowing your money to leave your checking account and do nothing, go to these bills and just sit and die, or it's sitting in your checking account and not working for you. It's the idea behind it is you're putting all of your money to work for you. The objective is to generate or put your cash flow in a position so that it can not just maybe pay a bill, but also reduce the amount of interest that you're paying elsewhere, which in turn saves you on interest and allows you to generate and build more cash flow. So what we're going to walk through is in this case, income is still coming into that checking account, but we're going to put in place a debt tool, which means all of that income goes into this debt tool. Well, what happens when we do that? And in most cases, it's some type of line of credit card, personal line of credit, doesn't matter. It's some type of line of credit. When that income goes into that line of credit, the payment for that line of credit is now satisfied. Again, so and I'll get into an example where we talk about a dollar amount, but conceptually, when that dollar amount goes into that debt tool, the payment on that debt tool is satisfied, which means the balance is reduced based off the amount of income that came from that checking account. And when that balance is reduced, what happens when you reduce the balance on a line of credit, or you reduce the balance on a credit card? You pay less interest. You get closer to paying it off. Well, which means when your income hits that line of credit, you're paying the least amount of interest possible in that moment. But then from there, you're going to then take the same dollar that was sitting on that line of credit that allowed you to achieve less interest, and then pay bills. And there may be several bills. There may be a few loans. There may be a car note, a mortgage. But you're going to pay bills from that line of credit. And when you do so, what happens? Well, when you do so, that cash flow does something. It sits on that line of credit, which means because the cash flow that you had left over, instead of it sitting in your checking account doing nothing, or sitting in your savings account theoretically doing nothing, that cash flow is now sitting on the debt tool, which increases the amount of room on that debt tool, meaning increases the available credit. It increases the available opportunity for you to use or leverage those dollars again. And in addition to that, the interest on that debt tool, the interest on that line of credit is also saved. So two things are happening here. You are improving, so use that. You are increasing the available credit on that debt tool when that cash flow is sitting on it. In addition, the interest is being saved, meaning you're paying less in interest. Two things are happening at the same time. So not only did you satisfy the payment and use a dollar multiple times to pay a bill, but you also increase the amount of credit available and saved interest at the same time as well. But let's kind of dig into or talk a little bit more about a debt tool. There are many different types of debt tools, and there's really no wrong answer. For me, if I'm looking at a debt tool, the type of debt tool that I'm looking to be able to leverage and or use is one that is open-ended. Meaning, not only can I put money in it, I can get money out of it. Well, there are some debt tools that we may be forced in a position to use may not be open-ended, and that's okay. So let's kind of talk through it. So there are credit cards that a lot of people use as debt tools. There's personal lines of credit. There's home equity lines of credit. Now, I put here a self-directed 401k loan. In truth, a debt tool is just leverage. So can you use a loan, any loan, as an open-ended vehicle? No, you can't. For a loan, in most cases, you can use that dollar amount, leverage that dollar amount, but it's not a dollar amount that you can put money onto it and get money out of it. Usually it's one directional, meaning you can make payments on it and you can use that loan, but it's a one-time use, right? It's not something that you can use multiple times or go back and forth, putting income onto it and taking income off of it. So what I'm saying here is this can be used as leverage. And if you're going to use it as leverage, you're going to use it in conjunction with a checking account, or use it in conjunction with a line of credit. So all I'm saying here is it can be used as leverage. You can also put here a consolidation loan. Consolidation loans can be used as leverage. So my point is a loan can be used as leverage in conjunction with another vehicle to help create a debt tool for you, because your checking account can also be used as a debt tool, but it would be used as a debt tool in conjunction with something else. For instance, when I started Velocity Banking, I couldn't qualify for a line of credit like a personal line of credit or a home equity line of credit. I couldn't. So what we ended up doing was borrowing from my self-directed 401k and using that to chunk away at a debt. And then I connected a credit card as overdraft protection to my checking account. So my checking account in conjunction with this credit card is what truly made my debt tool. And then ultimately you can also use a business line of credit as well. So my point is there are many different types, and there's really no wrong answer as to which one you use. It's just some are more flexible than others. And understanding how you use those debt tools and what those debt tools are capable of, what's the impact on using them. For instance, when we started doing Velocity Banking, again, I was using a checking account and I was using a credit card as overdraft protection. Well, I was getting charged a fee for that overdraft protection. And that fee was, I had to weigh the math around. Do I take the fee, the charge for the overdraft protection and continue to do Velocity Banking? Is it worth it? Am I saving money and interest that I'm spending by paying off this debt faster while also getting hit by a charge using this overdraft protection? I had to weigh that out. And so my point is, you may have to do the same. Some of these are great by themselves, but some of them have to be used in conjunction with other vehicles, meaning these two might have to work together, or these two might have to work together. But that's where you kind of have to think this through. But the bottom line is a debt tool can be many different things.
Can you stay there for a second? Rose has a question that I thought was a great question. She says, does the type or structure of the debt tool matter? Just found that one of my HELOC is a second HELOC and not simple interest. The interest is amortized.
So if the interest is amortized, it sounds like it might be a loan.
Like a second mortgage, right?
Yeah, it sounds like, excuse me, sounds like it might be a he loan, which is not unusual. And a lot of times it's not unusual to have a home equity line of credit that is not simple interest. It may be, meaning it's not um, what do you call it? Not simple interest. It may be variable, meaning the interest may increase over time. But if you're saying that the interest is amortized, that sounds more like a loan to me. But still, let's say that's the case. Then what you may have is you may have a loan that you may need to leverage in addition to your checking account to be able to do velocity banking effectively. Meaning you still may be able to do velocity banking. It's just that now that you know how this vehicle is actually working, there are some limitations to how you're able to use that vehicle. Meaning, if it's an amortized loan, you may not be able to get income into it. You may be able to get a dollar amount out of it and leverage that dollar amount, but you may not be able to truly use it in the fashion that we would traditionally use a debt tool for. Again, maybe what we could do is jump on a call and we can talk a little bit more about how that tool that you're using is working for you, because maybe there's an opportunity to use it in conjunction with something else, or we use this as a setup, as a foundation to put yourself in a position to go after a vehicle that you can adequately use. And here's why I say this. In just doing the research around today's live, there are a lot of banks that are offering personal lines of credit again. They had stopped, I say right around that COVID period, they had stopped offering personal lines of credit, but I'm seeing a lot more banks. Specifically, I spent a lot of time this weekend looking at US Bank. US Bank has a really nice personal line of credit option that is, I think the best interest rate on a personal line of credit for them, you need like an 800 credit score. But I think anywhere between I'll call it 660 to 800, there's a pretty decent product out there. So again, maybe it's, yes, I'm going to leverage this loan in the short term to be able to get myself in a more positive, credit worthy position so that I can qualify for a vehicle that makes more sense. So go ahead. Let me stay there.
Well, what I was gonna say
Mhm.
about the debt tools is another thing that you might find is that when you were talking about that this one might have higher interest, and there might be a fee that comes, or a consequence for using a particular debt tool as well. That part may trigger your spouse. You may not have a partner in this process, and you may have to, I think there's a few people in the chat too that could also speak to this. You may have to do the math all the way through to be able to show your spouse, your partner, whoever, that this is worth doing. They still may not be on board because a lot of people get stuck at that surface math, so they can't move past that point. We've talked about this a lot, but if you find that you have resistance and you're struggling to make sense of, is this the right debt tool for me? The best thing to do is hop on a call, because it's free, and that's the whole point of why we offer these. Just to be able to even bring your person with you and say, hey, we just want to talk through this. That way they feel like they can ask questions too. Because I promise you, Donnell will jump on their side of the table like, yeah, this sounds crazy, right? And make sure that by the time you're done with the call, they can either understand it, or they're willing to jump on board to see the results. And I promise you that if you do this right, you're going to see results, and they won't be able to unsee it after that. So I just want to encourage and to throw that in there. It's not all roses, well, when you're married and doing this and one person's not on board.
Well, and speaking of the surface math, that's exactly why we pulled this up next, meaning just a high level example. This purely made up, but I just want to kind of walk through what that math looks like on the surface. Meaning, if you make $4,000 a year, that income traditionally would go into your checking account. Again, the idea is we identify some type of line of credit where we can put all, not some, not a portion, all of our income onto that debt tool. And once we do, again, it's going to satisfy the payment on that debt tool. And then we pay bills from there. And those bills may be a series of different expenses that we might have, right? And in this case, we put in 4,000, maybe we've got expenses of about 2,500. So what's left? What's left is about $1,500. Where does that $1,500 live? It is not living here. When we put all of our income onto this debt tool and we pay bills from it, that cash flow now sits on this line of credit, which reduces the overall balance and reduces the amount of interest owed. But let's dig a little bit deeper into what's actually happening inside of this line of credit. What does that look like? Well, in this case, what we're using here is a line of credit. You can call it a personal line of credit if you want, with a $20,000 limit. That $20,000 limit has a $15,000 balance on it. So the limit is $20,000. We got a $15,000 balance on it, meaning there's $5,000 of room. And this line of credit, usually I move very fast through this process and we talk very little about the impact of the interest. So let's kind of dig into some of that. And the interest rate on this line of credit is 11.85. Well, using this process that we just discussed, so if you've got this line of credit and we're putting $4,000 onto the line of credit and that cash flow of $1,500 is living on that line of credit month after month, well, what's happening is if we just were to look at month one, when that $1,500, and I think I'm saying 15,000, when that $1,500 in cash flow hits that line of credit, it's going to reduce this balance. So if we look at the first 3 months, or first 4 months rather, that's $4,500 that this balance would end up being reduced. If we started out at month 0 with a $15,000 balance and we had $4,500 of cash flow sitting on that line of credit, we now have a new balance of $10,500. Okay, that's $10,500 balance with a limit of $20,000. Well, what if that car note that we were paying, we decided to now chunk away at that line of credit, meaning we've got a car sitting here that we've been paying $450 a month on at 5.25%, and the balance on that line of the balance on that car loan is about $6,500. It's interesting. When we were walking through this example, my wife and I, she made the comment, but wait a minute. The line of credit on this, the interest rate on this line of credit is 11.85%. Why would I take a line of credit at 11.85% to pay off a car note, to pay off a car loan of 5.25? Like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm using a larger interest rate to pay off a smaller interest rate. I think this is the conversation that a lot of couples end up running into. And this is where you have to peel back a few layers and do the math. Because in essence, I've been paying $450 a month for a long time at 5.25%. Let's look at that. But in addition, if I was to all of a sudden take $6,500 out of this line of credit and pay this car off, what happens in that instance? The instance I pay off this $6,500, that payment of $450 a month is no longer required. And when that payment of $450 a month is no longer required, my cash flow goes from $1,500 up to $1,950. So what? Well, when my cash flow increases, again, thinking of it from the perspective of Pac-Man, when my cash flow increases, when I eat one of those power pellets, what am I able to do? I'm able to crush more debt faster because my cash flow has just increased by $450. But that still doesn't address this issue. I was paying 5.25% on this $6,500. I am now paying 11.85% on the same $6,500 that's sitting on the debt tool. Am I paying more? Am I paying less? So let's talk about it. So what I want to do is jump over to, I think I'll go here. Jump over to the, take a look at an auto loan. And I had to make these numbers up for them to kind of work out to $450 a month. But let me kind of just walk you through what I kind of highlighted. So let me do this. I guess I'll make it bigger first. Make it bigger first. Make it a little bit bigger so you can see it rather. So what I'm saying is we've got a original auto loan of about $23,500 at about 5.25%. And all I'm doing is playing that out over time. And over time, that monthly payment is right around $450. And how much interest how much interest would I pay if I was to allow this loan to go to term? I would end up paying somewhere around $3,200 in interest. Okay. So if I just continued paying the $450 a month, this is how much interest I would pay. Well, where are we as it relates to this auto loan? Where are we in the, I'll call it the amortization schedule or the loan schedule or loan payoff? Well, if I only owe $6,500 on that loan, I am somewhere between here and here. So I have somewhere between 3 to 4. I'm sorry. I'm in year 3, not yet in year 4. So somewhere around year 3.5, or something like that. But let's actually do the math. What is this math? If I pay off this loan here, I am not going to pay this interest. This interest equates to, I think I did this math. Yep, this interest equates to about $565 if you kind of add it together. Okay, but let's break it down a little bit further. So let's look at the monthly schedule. So again, we've got about $6,500 left on this loan. So that puts us right about here. So we've got about $6,500 left on this loan. So if we add these numbers, plus year 4 and 5, if I pay off that $6,500 right now, I am not going to pay interest from month 45 on. And if you add those numbers together, it equates to about $675. So, okay. So what we've learned is if I pay off this loan right now, instead of me paying all of this $3,200 in interest, I'm going to pay somewhere around, let's call it $675 less. But that doesn't explain how much interest I'm going to pay on the line of credit. So let's talk about that. So if you go back over to the vibe board, sweetheart.
Okay, done.
So, and I've kind of already done this math. But let's just kind of talk through it a little bit. If the interest rate is 11.85% and I'm starting out at $1,500, how much interest am I paying for month 0? Well, $15,000 times this 11.85%. All you do is you multiply 11.85% times this number and divide by 12, and you get a number. So the moral of the story is if I pay off this car here, the new balance on this dollar amount would be 17 grand, right? Because I put 4,500 into the line of credit and I just used, or I subtracted, or I paid off 6,500 out of the line of credit. So the new balance is $17,000. So if you were to simply multiply $17,000, here, I'll do it on my phone real quick. And remember, there's a new month, right? That month is 1950. So in month 4, I'm going to put all of my income into this line of credit. So when I do that, 17,000 minus the 1950, that leaves me a balance of about $1,550. So between here and here, the balance on that line of credit is $1,550. If I multiply that by 0.1185, that gives me $1,783. But if I divide that by 12, that means the interest payment in this month is about $150. So if we play this out for the next 3 months until that $6,500 is paid off, so if we play this out over the next 3 months, which is what it's going to take for us to pay off the $6,500 that's sitting on this line of credit, in 3 months, I would have paid in total $390 in interest. So again, if I go to term with this line of credit, I'm paying, what's it, $675? Yeah, $675 in interest. But over the 3 months that it's going to take me to pay off this line of credit or pay off the $6,500 that I placed on it, I'm going to end up paying $390.
Well, kind
in
of
interest.
though, because you're also paying that interest also includes what was on the balance of the card too. So you're being generous here by including that
Exactly.
interest.
And
Yeah.
that's what I'm waiting for. So because eventually, when the the replay is reviewed, the argument will be no, that's not it, or whatever the. I'm actually being very generous here,
Yes. Very generous. Yeah.
very generous, because this number is much lower than the 390. But here's my point. My point is 390 less than 675? The answer is yes, but that's not the point. From my perspective, this is not about whether or not I am or am not paying more interest. What if I was paying more? My question is this: every time you put $450 into this vehicle, how accessible is that $450?
Right. That
Every
part.
payment you make into this car, how accessible is it? It's not. But because I've now paid the car off, how accessible is every one of these $1,950 that I put inside this line of credit because my cash flow increases? How accessible is the $450 that I'm putting into this line of credit every month from this point forward? It's 100% accessible.
Every
If I
day.
had any emergency, if there was some tornado and I had to replace the roof, if I had to buy a new car, if the car broke down and I had to get the car fixed,
That part.
I can now leverage the $450 that is living inside of this line of credit to be able to do so. If I run this out to term, how accessible is that $450?
And how much longer would you have made payments? Like it'd be all locked up for that period.
Again, based off the schedule that we showed, we're talking about another, 2 years and maybe 4 months. Versus it's now gone. I've increased the cash flow, which allows me to pay off this debt faster. And yes, not only am I saving in interest, I now get to use this dollar over and over and over again.
Yep.
And I think that's the part that's missing. But this is very difficult to explain unless you do the math. Like, again, because it's interesting. You and I had this, as much as you know about velocity banking, it's still jarring, right? I've
Yeah.
got this vehicle that I'm paying 11.85% on to pay off a debt that's 5.25%. The math does not math.
Well, here's why the math wasn't mathing for me, because we're trying to give a easy to understand example for everyone else who is going, okay, I want to make sure that I understand this. And so I'm going to watch this video, right? Or I know nothing about it. I'm going to watch this video. So they're looking at this. Immediately when you did that, I went, now they're going to freak out and say, oh, what the heck? Why would they do this? People are crazy. I'm glad that you went forward and showed the interest, because I wasn't going to go that deep into it today. Tomorrow we're going to do another example,
Right.
or not tomorrow, but Wednesday, step by step through what this looks like with multiple debts and multiple payments, and what this would really, we wanted to give a simple example today just to allow people to wrap their heads. When you threw 11.85, I was like, what are you doing? They're going to be completely confused, or they're just going to immediately shut down and say, clearly 11 point whatever, doesn't matter. 11
Right.
is
Does not matter.
higher than 5. Why would I do that? And you can't have a conversation once somebody has decided at that point that it doesn't make sense and they miss out. Here's the other part. You've paid off your car in 3 months. Wouldn't have happened paying the regular note, right?
Right.
You've paid off this credit card that you've probably been making minimum payments and would have been making those same minimum payments for years to pay off that $15,000. And that $15,000 will be paid off in less than a year, right? So like half a year, 7 months or something like that is probably what it would take to pay off that entire credit card. And then you still have all that room. We sell ourselves short when we don't do the long math. And I'm first, not that we're naming names or should be, but I'm first to say that I still struggle with this because it's a program, right? It's a mindset. It's like in there, deep in there, where you just go 11 is bigger than 5.
Right.
Why would that make sense?
Right.
And even though I even know better, until I see the math played out, it's hard for me to believe too sometimes. So I got to see it. I'm a visual person. I got to see it.
And just to sum it up, this is why this analogy I think is so perfect, because in essence, as you eliminate the debt, what ends up happening is your cash flow becomes so large that it doesn't matter what the interest rate is. Your cash flow becomes so large that it ends up being able to successfully continue to increase because it's a compound effect. The more and more cash flow you increase, the larger and larger Pac-Man becomes, the larger and larger debt he's able to eat, which means even if I'm paying off a smaller interest rate with a larger interest rate, it doesn't matter what that interest rate is, because I get to go back to the well over and over again, which means my cash flow just continues to increase every period that I address debt.
We have one more question. If
Sure,
from Kaylin, I think it's how you say
sure.
it.
Let's do it.
What would you suggest to a person with a line of credit with 30% usage? Can you still start velocity banking with this line of credit?
How about this? This example is saying I've got a line of credit that has about 80% usage. So absolutely. It's really, I said this earlier, but I know it's very hard to conceptualize. To me, this is my opinion. I have yet to hear anyone else say this. To me, velocity banking is not about the debts. Like, I could care less about this debt. Velocity banking is about this debt tool. The more and more room you create on that debt tool, the more flexibility and autonomy you have. The more flexibility you have, you now get to chunk away at these debts. So it's only about the debt tool, which means what is the largest impact to you creating room on that line of credit that has 30% usage? The largest impact for you to create room is your cash flow.
Yeah.
So if you have zero cash flow, guess what's happening? The balance on that debt tool that you're using is continuing to go up. But the more and more cash flow you have, the more and more room is being created, the more you can chunk away. So it really doesn't matter what's on the debt tool. What matters is your cash flow. If that makes sense.
I want to just side story, because I think that how these play out, like this is step one, is just being able to have some structure and get started, right?
Yep, that's it.
When it's increasing your leverage too, and we're going to talk about some of the benefits of velocity banking and how we've benefited just from doing velocity banking. We've already mentioned like points, right, and rewards and things like that. But one of those was, if you're talking about how much interest you could pay, right? How much interest you're already paying, would already pay, versus you leveraging the strategy. When we went from not being able to qualify for anything, right, to then all of a sudden people were coming out of the woodwork like, hey, can we give you some money? We'll give it to you for 0%. And we were taking all of those 0% offers, and you became a hard money lender and lent that out and was making 15 to 18% on money that you got for free. That was crazy to me. And I was like, wow, this is in reverse. Now we're using the same concept to build wealth and to make money. So that's why this concept is so important, because it's understanding leverage. That's really at the root of all of this. And this is why you don't need a software. You wouldn't want a software to do stuff for you. You wouldn't want to have a coach or somebody telling you what to do every single month. You want to learn this, because if you see opportunities come your way, you don't want to have to go ask somebody, is this something? Or you may not be able to recognize that it is an opportunity and be able to take advantage of it yourself, right? You can do this. And the reward of being able to pivot and move and take advantage of the banks and the credit card companies, the way that they've been taking advantage of us, is empowering. But this is where some people's futures completely change, when they just grab the information and then they're able to apply it.
So to your point, because again, here you go foreshadowing my slides because you made them. The benefits of velocity banking. What are those benefits? Now, obviously, there are some, again, very simple ones, right? We pay off debt faster. But there's also a significant savings in interest because of that velocity of money moving. Because velocity is moving at such a rate, what you're doing is you're reducing the amount of interest that you're paying over time. And in some cases, even if you're using a larger interest debt tool to pay off a lower interest debt. It sounds strange, but the math does not lie. And obviously, the more debt you pay off, the more cash flow increases. And as cash flow increases, what is that saying to you? What position are you putting yourself in, and what is that saying about you as it relates to your credit worthiness? Because what's happening here is you're reducing your DTI. Now, in truth, it's fluctuating. Meaning, if you're using your debt tool properly, when you put all of your income onto the debt tool, that's the lowest that balance is going to be all month. But when you pay bills from that debt tool, what happens? The limit or the balance increases. So to a creditor, what they're seeing is this, and that actually bodes well, or that's a favorable approach when with certain lines of credit to your creditors, to your those who are in charge of your credit score. And so what you're doing is you're placing yourself in a position to improve your credit worthiness. And my favorite piece is getting multiple uses out of the same dollar. We've been taught, we've been educated, we've been conditioned to believe income goes into your checking account, you pay bills from your checking account, and then what's left over, you get to use for you. It's the opposite of building wealth, because the only way you can build wealth is to pay yourself first. So the first thing that your income should be doing is taking care of you. The first thing your income should be doing is going into some type of, I'll call it, tool to be able to serve you the best. And then you pay bills from there. And then once you pay bills from there, what's actually happening is you're getting multiple uses out of the same dollar. So to me, if we were to organize or put these, I'll call it velocity banking benefits in order, the number one for me is the multiple uses out of the same dollar. But how do you start? Like, what are the steps and how do you get started with velocity banking? We say this all the time. It starts with your goal. What is your goal? And even if initially that goal is surface, meaning with most people that I talk to about this subject, the goal looks like something as simple as, you know what, I want to address some form of a debt. So it's very singular or linear, meaning my main objective for doing velocity banking is so that I can pay off these credit card bills. Well, why? Well, once I pay off my credit card bills, I know I'll have more cash flow, and now I can address another bill. Maybe it's my student loans. And then once I've addressed my student loans, maybe the next move is my mortgage. Meaning, in most cases, the goals that I'm initially hit with are very, I'll call it, linear. But we have to peel back the layers even further. Why are we doing this? Magic wand, poof. Your credit card debt, your student loan debt, and your mortgage is gone today. Then what? You've got all of this cash flow. What are you doing with it? Because the idea, at least in my mind, is if that cash flow is just sitting there, you're susceptible to doing what? Spending it. And if you're going to spend it, how is that how is that income helping you, or how is that cash flow helping you once you've eliminated this debt? So let's really dig back or peel back some of the layers and understand, what is the true goal? Like, what is the main focus? If all of the debt is gone, what is your main objective? Because in most cases, this is what it looks like. Meaning, opportunities come and go, life happens, goals evolve and change. Maybe your original objective was, hey, I want to pay off my mortgage. But if your mortgage is paid off, how did that help you quit your job? How did that help you prepare for retirement? Maybe this is your goal, wealth. Well, there are many different ways to get there. The first step is, hey, I need to free up more cash flow. So maybe I need to do something different with my home so that I can increase my cash flow. And maybe there is a debt, maybe there is student loans that's impacting your ability to generate wealth. But my point is this: there may be other actions that need to happen in order for you to be able to get there, or there may be other actions that you have to take. So maybe it's not as linear as you think. Maybe you do have to address some debt to be able to free up cash flow. And then even when you free up that cash flow, again, goals evolve, goals change. Maybe as a single man, I was focused on paying off this debt. But then I got married and my goals changed. So it's no longer about just paying off the debt. Maybe, hey, we are trying to get into our first home. So that means we need to improve our credit worthiness to be able to put us there. So those goals, those objectives that you may have started out one way may evolve and look a little bit differently. Go ahead, sweetheart.
The blue lines, you you guys who are watching, you know what this game is, right? This is the Chutes and Ladders reference, which Donnell has never played before, by the way. The blue line are the hacks. Those are the slides where you get to jump the line, right? So if you have to take the long way round, and if this is, depending on our decisions, the blue lines are our leverage. That's where we get to skip the line and we get to jump ahead. And that's what velocity banking and the concept behind velocity banking has done for us. It has given us a whole lot of these slides where we have got to skip years, tons of years. We have, what is it? We're less than 6 years into our mortgage, and it's almost paid off. Not because we made a bunch more money, not because we suddenly won the lottery, just simply because we now understand leverage. Now, we're not just paying off the home. We have other cogs and wheels in our machine that are all turning at the same time in a machine that feeds itself. If you've been here for a while, then you know you've seen what our machine looks like and how we're building wealth and reducing debt at the exact same time, almost at the same rate. And the benefit that we have seen is understanding this. Where are those? When you can see them, then you can take them. That's the problem. Is if you believe that you can't learn this, if you think, oh no, I just want to focus on paying off my mortgage, then you're taking the long way around. It doesn't matter. You're missing those opportunities to slide down and skip the line and skip ahead. So that's what those are for. And that's how we got ahead so fast. I couldn't even believe that this was possible because I never even knew people were doing this or that this was even a thing, right? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. They're going, are you kidding me? We're proof. We're proof that it works. We have many of these strategies that we talk about, self-directed 401k, first position HELOC, secure compound interest accounts. We have a lot of these connected together, and we're still sliding down these slides, I guess, and skipping the line. So it's possible. So anyway, point is doing things in a linear way because it makes you feel more comfortable. Do the math. If you need a consultation, they're completely free. That's the whole point. Just do it. Just at least do yourself the justice of saying, okay, I'm going to stop here in my process, even if I've been on a linear map, right? And I'm going to stop and I'm just going to see what's possible for me. 30 minutes will change your life.
All right. And a couple things to stay away from, because in this journey or on this journey to, whatever that goal might be, again, there are these opportunities or there's these roadblocks that we just need to be aware of. There are these red flags that we need to be conscious of on this journey. Making sure that one, we're not over leveraging ourselves or being conscious of the vehicles that we're using, because there are some, for instance, I've got a client in San Antonio who had a second position HELOC that wasn't really being used effectively. It was staying maxed out. He really didn't understand velocity banking at the time, and they converted that line of credit to a loan. So losing leverage, or have some of you who have been doing velocity banking and you had these maxed out credit cards, but all of a sudden you implemented velocity banking and you noticed that as you were making headway on your credit card, paying down those balances, the credit card company came along and reduced the limit on the card. So this is some of those things that will occur depending on one, where you are today and how you're positioning yourself to be successful tomorrow. So it's, being aware of those situations where you may be losing leverage, or are you over leveraged? Do you have too many credit cards that are maxed out, that are impacting your ability to just simply be credit worthy, to be able to qualify for lines of credit? And then again, those lines of credit becoming loans, charging your lifestyle to your credit cards, not understanding what that debt tool should be used for and what it should not. And again, this goes back to one of the questions that we had earlier as it relates to, hey, I've got this line of credit that has 30% utilization on it. The most impactful piece in this equation is your cash flow. Because if your cash flow isn't there and you're using this line of credit to supplement your lifestyle, what you're doing is you're putting yourself in a position where you can quickly become over leveraged. And if you don't have the cash flow to be able to address, you end up placing yourself, you were originally on this path to be able to accomplish your goal, but it ends up putting you back at goal, or putting you back at the start, and causing you to have to start all over again to reassess, what that path is you need to be going down. And then cash flow. If your cash flow is one, low to begin with, or doesn't increase over time, you have to be conscious of and careful as to how you're using these debt tools. Now, if we're following velocity banking, regardless of what your cash flow would be initially, if you're making headway on chunking away at debt, your cash flow will increase. But there are some situations where, you may need to do something outside of the ordinary to be able to increase your cash flow, like add in a self-directed loan, a self-directed 401k loan into the process, or some type of consolidation loan into the process to be able to jumpstart or accelerate this process. And then the last piece, the cost of debt continuously increasing. In most cases, those of us who have home equity lines of credit, those lines of credit, the interest rate on those lines of credit are variable, meaning they start out as one number today, but as the years increase, that line of credit, the interest rate on that line of credit continues to increase as well. Well, if you are only paying the minimum on that line of credit, you could be putting yourself in a position to where the balance isn't moving. And if the balance isn't moving, that means that the leverage that we were originally available to us is continuing to be lost, and we're putting ourselves in a position to where we could quickly become over leveraged. So again, understanding the vehicle you have and what are those other variables that are impacting your ability to be successful. Because what we don't want to do is put ourselves in a situation where what we thought was going to be a positive outcome ends up being a snowball effect of debt continuing to build over and over.
Okay, wait, hold on. I've been trying to put up this comment from Damon
Go for it.
like 42 times. Okay. I'm like, my bad, David. He's like, whoop, whoop. Should you use that snowball strategy, then roll into velocity banking? I think this is a great time to address that.
Yeah, you're spot on. And it goes back to those different forms of debt tools. Maybe I don't qualify for a personal line of credit. Maybe I don't qualify for a business line of credit. Maybe I'm a renter, so I can't get a home equity line of credit. So what are those actions I can take? I think debt snowball or debt avalanche absolutely in some situations is the right tool. Meaning, I kind of I tend to lean more towards debt snowball or debt avalanche before I even think about using a credit card as a debt tool. Now, again, everybody's situation is different, but if you're running into a situation where cash flow is, I'll call it an opportunity, then sometimes debt snowball makes absolutely the most amount of sense, because you start out small. You just want to see progress, build confidence around this process actually working. And as you pay off those smaller debts and you roll that into paying off the next smallest debt, what's happening during those moments? You're increasing cash flow, and maybe you're only increasing your cash flow 20, 40, 80, $100 a month. But as that continues, you're putting yourself in a position to do two things. One, address more debt faster. But two, watch how your credit worthiness or your ability to be able to qualify for other debt tools improves as well. So I am absolutely 100% a fan of Debt Snowball. And there may be a few people on this live tonight that will tell you they have consultations with me thinking we're going to talk about velocity banking, but we end up ending on Debt Snowball may be the best option. Even if you've got 0% credit cards available to you, sometimes, depending on your cash flow, Debt Snowball might actually make more sense initially. So I'm with you.
But you talk about one thing in particular with everybody, and that's what's next.
Yep. And it's being very detailed and I'll call it specific around what's the goal. And it's not just, hey, generational wealth. Or it's not just I want to fire my job. It's being very specific. If we're focused on passive tax-free income, let's talk about what the objective is. Not just the surface, not just paying off debt, paying off a credit card, but is it replacing 100% of your expenses with cash flow, or replacing 90% of your income so that you can, hit your fire number and retire early? And again, what's the purpose? What's the point? Why are we doing this? If it's generational wealth, or if it's making sure that there's a legacy left, if God forbid, if something were to happen to you. And the biggest piece for me is being extremely specific. Like, what are we talking about? Like, is it, I want to replace my income, which happens to be today $60,000 a year. So I want to put myself in a position to where I'm eliminating debt so that I can put myself in a position to be able to retire my job. So I'm looking for a vehicle that can produce specifically $60,000 a year. Or, you know what? Retire early is an option. I've got a pension, so I've got a portion of my income taken care of, but there's a gap. Well, what's that gap? That gap might be $25,000, $30,000 a year. And then let's back into how we can achieve that $25,000, $30,000 a year in additional income by the time you want to retire. Because here's what I'm getting at. As we identify the goal, as we focus on the goal and be very specific on how we're going to achieve it, I think what we start to realize is just paying off debt won't help us close a gap in what our income is today and what we need in the future. Just having less debt doesn't necessarily help us put our family in a position to where we can generate wealth for generations to come. Just paying off your mortgage may keep you broke. So if we identify what that actual dollar amount is, maybe we can back into, not only am I focused on using velocity banking to increase my cash flow, I also need to take this cash flow, which are just your employees, take your employees and put them to work. Maybe I need to take this cash flow and put it in a vehicle that can actually generate income for me. So I'm using the debt tool to pay down debt to increase my cash flow. But as my cash flow increases, I take a portion of it or a percentage of it and put it to work, so that it can actually help me accomplish the true goal based off data, or based off peeling back layers to, guard against inflation, or build a legacy for my future, or create generational wealth so that, God forbid, if something happens to me, my family's taken care of. So I think that's the biggest piece here, is not just focusing on eliminating debt or using your cash flow to eliminate debt. It's understanding what is at the root, what is the true purpose and point of us going down this path. And what we tend to run into is it is something way bigger than just paying off that car loan. Go ahead, sweetheart.
Yeah. I just want to say part of the reason why we talk about a specific dollar amount, why the what and the why are two completely different things. Most people start with their why. They list their why. This is my goal, but it's actually the why. The what is very specific. We say it all the time, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. If you don't know the exact amount that you are going to need in the future, this is the amount of income I need to survive. I understand this is the minimum that I would need today. But what does that look like with inflation in 10 or 20 years? What does that look like with healthcare? There are certain things that are it's not following the inflation rate. Housing, for instance, is not following an inflation rate. Lots of groceries and services and goods aren't following these standard inflation rates, and so we have to be prepared. Having leverage is just part of it. But the other one is, how can we pay less in taxes? Because we won't know what the tax rate is in 10 or 20 years either, right? Get ourselves in a position with a very precise what. What are we goaling for? And that way we can move steps towards that specific goal. And if you need help with that, that's okay. We get that part. So we have tools for that too.
Yep. And so we talk about, when we're focused on where do we start, it starts with identifying the goal. And then once we've identified the goal, again, she's foreshadowing what's coming because she made the slides. The next step is go grab the worksheet. And once you grab that worksheet, now where do you go? You go to selfdirected.info /live, right? Yeah, selfdirected.info /live, and go grab that worksheet to identify what. You have to understand so once you've identified your goal, you have to know your numbers. And maybe you need a little bit of assistance to be able to better understand what your numbers are. Because my questions start like this. at the end of the month, whatever that dollar amount was that you made, after you've paid all of your bills, what's left over? If you can't adequately answer that question, then maybe you need to grab some of the tools that we have at your disposal to be able to identify specifically what is that dollar amount left over at the end of the month. Why? Because once you understand your cash flow, you understand how flexible, like what your flexibility is, what your options are, because your options are truly based on how much cash flow you have. Again, I go back to velocity. There's a lot of people who talk about velocity banking and paying off debt. To me, velocity banking is only about cash flow. It is only about the debt tool and how quickly your debt tool can, the balance on your debt tool can be eliminated so that you can chunk away at other debt. So it's focused solely on debt, the debt tool. And how do you focus on the debt tool? It is solely dependent upon your cash flow. The more cash flow you have, the faster that debt tool is paid off, the more flexibility you have, and more that you're able to do. So again, take yourself over to selfdirected.info/live. Go get some of the free resources that we have. And then if you need to, it's just a matter of jumping on a call with me to be able to get things done. Because once you've identified your goal, once you've grabbed the resources to be able to know your numbers, the next step is just for you to take action. And taking action looks like putting this process to work. And maybe you need a little bit of assistance or encouragement, or just, hey, these are the steps that I'm about to take. Are these the right steps? Donnell, what would you do if you were in my position? Are these the steps that you would actually take? So let's talk about it. Let's jump on a free call and let's have a conversation around whether or not the steps that you're taking are the right amount of steps. And I want to highlight something here. We talk about knowing your goal. I kind of mentioned it earlier. To me, as it relates to velocity banking, when you walk through the steps of velocity banking, it's about pay yourself first. So when you know your goal and you understand the value of before I pay a bill, I want to take my cash flow and make sure my cash flow is working for me. So that's the reason I'm taking my cash flow and putting it on that debt tool. I'm taking my cash flow, or I'm sorry, the income is coming into my checking account, and I'm taking the income from my checking account and I'm adding it to that debt tool. I am paying myself first. I'm making sure my income is assisting me first in accomplishing my goals. And then I'm going to take that income and pay down bills. And then what ends up happening is that cash flow ends up sitting right on that debt tool. So it's about not just knowing your goal, but when you know your goal and you're ready to take action and implement that process, it's paying yourself first. And then the last piece, as it relates to taking action, is none of this happens effectively if you don't commit. Meaning you can't half-ass this process. If you're doing velocity banking, the idea behind it is your income is going onto the debt tool. Not a portion of your income, not some of your income, not just enough to pay the minimum balances or minimum amount due on your debts. Because if you do that, all that's going to happen is the interest, using this scenario that we just had, that 11.85% interest is going to cause that balance to continue to rise. So you do have to commit. It's not just taking action. It's you being committed to this process and following through. So I think that's kind of how I want to leave it there, sweetheart, is how do you start? You got to know your goal, grab the resources. Once you grab the resources, identify your numbers. And then from there, we just simply take action.
All right. Bye. We wouldn't be us if we didn't give a shout out to the free velocity banking worksheet that you can grab right now. This is a series of worksheets like in a workbook, right, on Google Sheets, and I fixed it now, so you have to make a copy so it won't confuse anybody trying to use the master sheet or whatever. So it will force you to make a copy now. Then you have your own copy. We don't have access to that, of course, unless you give us access, and you just start filling in your numbers. There is instructions on the first sheet, and then we have a video inside of our Facebook group. You jump in there, and then that way we can get feedback about this worksheet, and it helps everyone to learn and grow together. So we haven't really jumped out to really promote it a lot. We just like to say this is a tool that you can use, and I highly suggest that you do. Now, we've been working with ChatGPT as it evolves to try to figure out, can we have a consistent prompt and have it produce the same result every single time? it inherently wants to do debt snowball. It always starts to steer towards doing debt snowball because it's programmed based off of prior information, right? So if you understand velocity banking and you want to do that, there's a prompt in there that will help you do that. But you have to know, and you have to be able to identify, nope, it's starting to go towards debt snowball, in month 30 or 36 or whatever it is. But it'll start to show you a schedule of what this should look like. And you can plug in all of your information, give it access to your sheet, and then ask it any questions that you want. And that's kind of a cool feature. We're at least there with that if you're comfortable with that. If you're not, then you can just, of course, book a call and Donnell can go over that with you, answer any questions that you have. And it's not, one call is free. If you need to have a second call, that's okay. If you need to call first just to get it off of your chest and say, okay, am I thinking about this right? And then you go, okay, now I have to get my spouse on board. That's the one.
It happens.
That's right. And this is really where I think you shine. I think you shine with helping people have these tough conversations with family members where they think that this is you can tell that it's uncomfortable on their side of the Zoom call, right? But by the time it's over, they realize that you're actually not sitting on the opposite side of the table. You're on the same side of the table as they are, and that sometimes it takes a moment for them to realize that, because we have nothing to gain from this, right? You're the only one that can gain out of this process. We just know the power that information has had in our lives and the trajectory of our future and the wealth of our lineage has completely changed just because of information. We did not have access to a lottery and inheritance. There was nothing there that helped us build what we have built so far. And that's the insane part about that, is I want everyone else to have that too. We want everyone else to have that too, because we know that this is what is needed right now. If this is the only thing keeping you from safeguarding against inflation, doesn't matter who the president is, you have the ability to take control and make some moves that will, without having to make any extra money. If you can make extra money, it only makes it go faster. It's amazing. So we have some questions. I'll stop talking so we can get to those. But this is where you can get access to the workbook and the group.
No problem.
Okay. Let's see. We went to Damon.
Yeah, I start a few as well while you were talking.
Okay,
so
thank you.
That helps.
It does help. S. Creighton says, and she just was able to catch us live this first time. So welcome to the live.
Absolutely.
Where should the cash flow go for the best returns?
So again, this is your first live being with us, so you haven't heard this, but this is my standard response around questions like this, because it depends. Like, there's really no straight answer, because it depends on the goal. We have to first identify what is the goal, what is the objective, and then we can identify what's the best tool to help you hit that ultimate goal. And maybe we have to just deal with what you have, meaning maybe you don't have a debt tool that's effective enough that you can put income into it and get pay expenses out of it. So we have to start with using your checking account and using a credit card for overdraft protection. Or maybe you can't do that. Maybe we have to use some type of consolidation loan with your money in checking and do velocity banking from there. Or maybe velocity banking won't work at all, and we have to do debt snowball. So it really depends on your specific situation. And that kind of first starts with identifying what is the goal so that we can have that dialogue. So I would suggest, hey, let's jump on a call and have that discussion and kind of peel back some of those layers as well. One thing you mentioned earlier too, as it relates to the spouse, some of my favorite conversations is when I get the spouse who's sitting over in the corner, doesn't want to be on camera, but what you can see is the arms folded. You see the arm, all you see is an elbow and another arm on top. You really can't see, because they don't want to be on camera. And every time the spouse tries to put them on camera, they're like, you brought me to some nonsense. Why should I be here? Why should I even listen to this guy? What does he have to sell?
Yeah, I don't need to side eye him on camera.
And the reason I enjoy those types of conversations is because I think that's all of us. And we've been lied to so much. Like, there's so much misinformation out there. How can you identify, how do you know what is or isn't true? And usually those conversations start like this. Let's talk about what you're doing today. Let's not talk about velocity banking. Let's talk about what you're doing today and how successful you are with the steps that you're taking today. Meaning, when we peel back the layers on, you know what, my 401k is doing okay. I got a match and everything. But what I've learned is by the time I retire, I won't have enough to be able to supplement my current income. So I may have to downsize. Or, you know what, we're addressing our debt, but it doesn't seem like we're making much movement. So, with the actions that you're currently taking today, there's a reason why. So let's connect the dot on why things aren't functioning the way they should be. And then once we peel back the layers on the why, then let's take a look at what is possible. Like if we just redirected where a dollar amount is going or restructured how we're currently doing things today, maybe there may be an opportunity to do this thing a little bit better. And when you learn, I'm not here to sell you anything. When we're about to get off the call and you ask me, well, why didn't you try to sell me this? Because that's not why I'm here. My objective is to talk about strategy. You have to take action. Like you have to commit. You have to pay yourself first. What I can share with you is how we've done it. Because I'm not here to give you financial advice. I'm not here to tell you how to achieve your goals. I'm here to lay out what we've done. There's many ways to 10. So you get to pick and choose what direction, what path you want to go down to be able to accomplish your 10. But maybe what I can do is share with you some actions you can take that maybe you weren't aware of. Maybe if you just look at it a little bit differently, you might be able to get there faster. So I enjoy those those conversations a lot.
Yeah. The other side of this part of this conversation and why emotions tend to be extremely high at this moment is that velocity banking worksheet. We're going to go over it on the next live stream, by the way. We're going to walk through it so you guys can get a preview, or you can ask questions if you are using it. So I did want to say that.
Well, and what's interesting about that is I've never done that. Meaning what we're going to walk through on Wednesday. So I understand the sheet. And when people share the sheet with me, we're talking about the data in the sheet. But I've never physically filled out the sheet with someone. I haven't had to. And there are times where people will ask me, how does this math get from here? And I have to use my logic because logically I can understand how this dollar amount went from here to here, but I've never watched it. And when we were originally when you were originally putting this sheet together, it was really about whether or not the math made sense, meaning whether or not the columns added up correctly and whether or not they populated correctly. Like that all makes sense. But actually walking through an example and breaking down that example using the sheet, we're going to do that on Wednesday, because I think that will also help several individuals who are using the sheet today and may not understand why the numbers aren't looking the way we discussed on the call. So I'll kind of be able to, I'll say, connect some dots on what specifically has to happen within the sheet in order for your numbers to look like they do on the board when I do them. So I think this will be a pretty awesome live on Wednesday as well.
Yeah. So come jump in the sheets with us on Wednesday.
Well done. Well played.
What I wanted to say though was this is where people see their numbers for the first time. Some people are afraid to fill out these sheets and put their information in because they have to see it. They've not seen it before, right? It's just a credit card bill. It's just a balance. It's just a minimum payment. That's what they're seeing. They're not actually seeing what they're spending. They're not seeing what their lifestyle looks like on paper and what comfort is costing them too. When we talk about what is the goal, then we say, okay, well, if this is the number you need to get to, now let's talk about how that's possible. What would happen if we start making some different decisions? And some of those conversations aren't our business, right? Making different decisions. That part's none of our business. But sometimes it is the first time that a person, whether they're married or not, a person has actually seen their numbers, and the amount of times we've heard people go, whoa, I gotta take a minute here because I've not put it on paper before, but now that I see it, I can't unsee it. And I need to have a conversation with myself. And we're not here to judge. We're not here to judge at all. People don't believe that these calls are free and the reason why the calls are free. And again, I just have to share this little bit. I'll make it quick, I promise, because we got another question. It's because we have this window. We had a time horizon, right? At one point, this was where you could tap into retirement accounts. This was when you got those tax advantages. This was retirement traditionally. That's all we knew before. We thought, well, maybe we could speed this up by jumping into real estate. Well, that wasn't really for us. Okay. We tried. We went to the conferences. Crush it. We went and hyped it up. Fan mural, whatever we did. We tried. We went to go get the information, and we are not shy of learning. So once we started to implement and build our machine, and we saw how fast we were able to retire, we knew we had 1 or 2 years, and then we could just not work. We could have just done that, right? We could have just done that. And then when people say, how the heck, people were asking us like, how the heck are you guys getting all of your kids' cars like this, just fast like that? Like, how are you doing that? We became the bank. They were out here going, I don't know if I can qualify to get my kid a car, let alone 4 kids a car in the same like 6-month period. We became the bank. And they were wondering like, is what you guys are doing legal? Completely legal. That's what's crazy about it, is that everybody should have access to this information. So instead of us riding off into the sunset like we hacked life, we have the life hack and we are better than everybody because we figured this part out. What we could do instead is pay it forward. Each one teach one, and go out and share this information. There are a lot of people who have this behind, who are gatekeeping this information because they know that they can sell it in a course. They know that they can profit from it. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. People are doing that all over the place. We do have services that we are compensated for with our time. That doesn't have anything to do with getting you started and teaching you what to do. If those are particular vehicles or parts that you want to add into your machine, cool. That does not prevent you from getting any of the information on how to build your own machine, because everybody should have information. This should have been taught in schools. The equation of that he just went through, that simple scenario of having a car and having a line of credit and how to pay it off and where your cash flow should go, that should be the Johnny has 5 apples, right? Right. That should be the next grade after you figured out how many apples Johnny has. How much cash flow does he have, and where's it going? Right? Where's it going, and what are we doing with it? So we just understand that if we did not have access to this information, whether we paid for it or however we got it, doesn't matter. You're getting it now. That's what we can do. So this isn't to down anybody who is out here selling this information or coaching or whatever around it. It's to say you don't actually need that. We didn't need coaching. We didn't need any of those things. We were able to learn it on our own and build and thrive because of information. So sometimes we struggle. We're so busy. We're busier now than we were ever before. And we wonder, like, it wasn't the point of retiring early and doing all of this so that we could just like ride off into the sunset. But the truth is, it gets us up and it fires us up to know that we are helping others. We're not just helping you because you're watching. We're helping your whole family, because you're going to go and you're going to spread this out to everyone else. And this is how we take control. This is how we get our power back. This is how we get financially secure. This is how we do it. And not knowing this stuff, we only can follow these traditional systems that were all designed and none of them for us to win. So let me move on to the comments before Sergio's like, okay, we have YM. Can we use this in Australia?
So can we use this in Australia, as in, can we use the strategy of velocity banking in Australia? Why? Absolutely. Because debt is debt is debt. Cash flow is cash flow is cash flow. Getting a debt tool is getting a debt tool, meaning a tool that you can put income in and be able to pay bills from. So absolutely, the strategy of velocity banking can be used anywhere. Doesn't matter where you are. Now, the type of debt tool may vary, or how you qualify for a particular debt tool may vary. But if I am not mistaken, I want to say use of a first position HELOC is actually an Australia-based strategy that was brought here. Don't quote me on that, but I am about 85% confident that because again, we just talked about velocity banking today, but one of the great debt tools to use is a first position home equity line of credit. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe a first position that the strategy of using a first position home equity line of credit to be able to pay off your mortgage in 5 to 7 years actually came from Australia. So short answer to your question is absolutely it can.
Wow. The more you know. All right. Sergio says, I have a union annuity that pays $7.71. I now have the option to add funds myself. Should I put my cash flow into that annuity or debt reduction?
Can you guess my answer, sweetheart? Here's the thing. It depends. What's the goal? Um, if the goal is to reduce debt, if you place now, here's what I know about an annuity. Once you place those funds in an annuity, you have what's called a surrender period or an annuitization period. And if you access those funds within that annuitization period, you will be hit with a surrender charge. So once you put funds into that annuity, they are locked up. Depending on the goal, depending on your age, depending on what your objectives are, that could, I'm not saying it doesn't, it could make sense to do. But if the objective is to put yourself in a position where you have more cash flow and more leverage, more flexibility, I'll call it more autonomy to be able to use your dollar multiple times, putting that dollar amount into an annuity will not give you the autonomy to be able to use that dollar multiple times. So, is there a better way? Is there a better path? Would using some other type of debt tool to be able to reduce debt and have access to that dollar more times than just by paying off that debt, is that better? Again, it depends on the goal. I think the short answer to that question is: would it make more sense to lock your money up versus having more flexibility? I would kind of lean more towards the having more flexibility and autonomy over my dollar to be able to use it to do other things. There are some great annuity products out there. I haven't really seen great annuity products coming from an employer because, in most cases, employers are trying to benefit off the vehicle as well. I'm not saying that they don't exist. I'm just saying I have yet to see an annuity that's provided by an employer be an outstanding vehicle for you to be able to put your income into. There are some great annuities out there. There's some annuities that function like a secure compound interest account that allows you to build wealth and have a lifetime of income. So there are some great ones out there. I'm just saying I don't know that I've seen them come from employers. So again, short answer to your question, is that the best place? I'm going to say probably not, but I'd have to know more. I'd have to better understand your goal to be able to fully answer.
Okay. Someone was saying that the calendar wasn't working. And sometimes if you pick that Saturday session, sometimes we do Zoom sessions on Saturdays. That way we can see you. It's a group thing, right? We can talk about one particular thing that everybody wants to know. And that way people can unmute and share or ask questions in that way. So it's just a different format. Saturday sessions only will show up with dates when we have Saturday sessions. So there's different calendars based off of the different ways to serve. So if you want to do a velocity banking consult, there's a calendar for that. If you wanted to go do a MPI plan preview, there's a calendar for that. There's general questions, self-directed plans. There's calendars for those things. That way we understand what you're booking for as well, and how that fits in the day. So sometimes some of those run over depending on if it's a first call, second call, third call, you know what I mean? So sometimes we have to put a little buffer in there. So I just wanted to say that don't pick the Saturday sessions unless we are promoting that we're doing one, or the dates won't show up. Okay, so next week we are talking about the worksheet. We're going over the worksheet and walking through how to use it, why those particular functions, maybe even get some feedback on that. Oh, hey, how to invest. He's saying, let me get off of these start comments. He's saying, I love velocity banking and reverse velocity banking.
Letting the cat out the bag.
Yeah.
We got a lot of new people who haven't heard of reverse velocity banking yet.
Well, I mean, essentially what I've been talking about, what we've been doing, again, learning about velocity. Why is this thing so big? It's taken up like half the thing. I don't know. I must have clicked something like make it extra huge. If you haven't seen the reverse velocity banking, that's okay. If you don't understand velocity banking and just the main concepts, hopefully this stream helped you. Hopefully this video, if you're watching the replay, hopefully this helped you get a stronger understanding of this concept, because you'll be able to use this over and over again. This is if our journey has been a stew, this is the broth, right? This is the roux. This is the oomph, the thing that makes, no matter what ingredients you put in it, it makes it good. It allows it to become something that is that will last and allow you to pivot and make more moves. So I hope that this helped you gain clarity on velocity banking. That was the whole point. We hope if there's anything missing, definitely give us that feedback. But we will have this chopped up soon, and we're going to start creating a playlist. That way it's easier to share or easier to find this information, especially for those who are trying to share this information out with their friends and family. It becomes very daunting when you're like, here, all you got to do is watch these 4 2.5-hour live streams.
Easy.
And people are like, if I got to do that, I'm not going. Yeah, I'm not doing it. So it wouldn't be us if we didn't give away a boat. So that's coming up next. If you're watching and you haven't jumped in the chat and you haven't grabbed a boat, now is the time to do that. We're gonna share about the boat, but here, I'll put this up. But this is why we do it. We had to start asking ourselves something very similar, but then I came across this question in this story, and this became almost a mantra in our home, in our relationship. Will it make the boat go faster is a story that was shared with me. It's known to be a one-sentence solution. Saying this concept could stop an argument in its tracks. Saying this concept could help you make quicker decisions, but ultimately it helps you reach your goal. But you got to know where you're going, less any road will take you there. So here's why we give away the boat. If you haven't, jump in the chat now, #boat, and we'll spin after this. In 1998, a British rowing team dreaming of the Olympic gold found themselves ranked 7th. Their focus had always been on the competition day, but they realized the keys to reaching their highest potential were hiding in the decisions that they'd make over those next 2 years.
Faced with 2 obvious choices, continue their current path and expect the same result, or give up, they discovered a third transformative option. They united under one guiding question: will it make the boat go faster? Every decision, every action was weighed against this mantra. If the answer was yes, they could, but would have to do it.
If the answer was no, it was forbidden, non-negotiable. Prior to the competition, this team was doubted and ridiculed, but no one knew what they had been doing. And once they hit the water, they were nearly unrecognizable, achieved their pinnacle, and won the gold. So we ask you,
what is your goal? What are you willing to do to achieve it?
Will your story feel unrecognizable, even to you? Are you willing to light your beacon and stay focused, stay committed? Is your story non-negotiable, or are you waiting to find out how you ranked? Your financial future is not a game. You are only competing with yourself and those in the boat with you, your family and the many generations to come.
Will this make the boat go faster? A sounding alarm, a beacon of clarity amidst turbulent life decisions.
It's not just about speed, but direction, purpose, and an unwavering commitment. Every choice, every sacrifice aimed at the goal.
The first agreement this team made was to become fully self-directed, making their health their wealth, adopting a new perspective on their time and freedom, and the decisions they could fully control to reach their goal.
Will we make your boat go faster? That is our pledge to you. Our mission is to arm you with knowledge, strategies, and insights to ensure that not only you reach the goal, but you do so long before your race is over. Okay. Here we go. All right, we're gonna get rid of this comment and put up the one. Okay, here we go. All right, see Brenda, I'm rooting for you, Brenda. You've been here, we need to get Brenda a boat. Here we go. Who's gonna win? We just sent a bunch of boats out too this week. We got a lot of people getting boats this week.
How about that? Well played. Well played.
Brenda, it's your day. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Everyone is cheering for Brenda. She has hashtag vote for weeks. Brenda,
Well done,
it's
Brenda.
your day. Go play the lottery too. Okay. Means something, right? It's the good juju. All right, who else is getting a boat? I like that it's updating in real time now. We don't have to. Hey! You know what I think is so dope about Sequoia? She is sharing these boats out like she's gifting us and this whole concept to people. And I think that is the dopest thing I've ever heard of in my life. But she's bringing folks over, and I really appreciate it.
She
All right,
deserves
who
all
else
the
is
votes.
getting? Yeah, she's getting all the boats. And she's giving them out too. And we gotta love that, you know. It feels like we're building a family over here, and I really appreciate that. Hey, Flawless Eyewear. I gotta go check them out. You know I'm about eyewear. All right, we'll do one more. Because we
Don't forget
can't
to
just
tell
stop
them where
the
to go.
song. Yeah, we can't just stop the song. Hey, Beverly! Oh, this is exciting! All right. All right, that's exciting. Well, congratulations to all the boat winners. Oh, we didn't put up the what to do. Yeah, let me find that. Hold on. I thought it was right here. Okay, go here. What in the world? Here we got it. Okay, if you won the boat, go here, and at the bottom, or you can do /winner. You could go there too. But most of our resources are here at this URL. So it's easy to remember, self-directed, right? selfdirected.info. The information is there, /live, the live stream, where you found us. And all of the resources there at the bottom of the page, though, there's a party picture. And you click the button, and then you tell us where to send your boat. So there's some information in there. You're just going to fill it out. Let us know, and then we will get your boat in the mail to you. So congratulations to everybody who won. Whoop, whoop. Here we go.
Congratulations.
Yes. Congratulations. We have one more comment that I thought was really was too good. So I want to make sure we got this in. Saeed, making me laugh in here. Okay. Where was it? It was Jay's. Oh,
Yeah,
here we go.
Okay.
What do you got it? Okay. What do you do if your debt tool can't be used to pay your rent and your car note?
Short answer to that is don't. Allow your if you need a certain amount of cash flow to sit in your checking account to address those bills that can't be used or paid by the debt tool, that's fine. Don't allow that to stop you. Because I've met with several people who decided they couldn't do velocity banking just because they couldn't pay their mortgage from the debt tool that they were wanting to use. So all you do is just maintain whatever that dollar amount you need to inside your checking to address those bills that you have to. The key piece for velocity banking is the cash flow making room on the debt tool. The key is your cash flow living on the debt tool. As long as you're focused on that, if you have to pay certain bills from your checking account, continue doing so, but don't allow that to stop you. But yeah, again, this is another one of those. If you want to talk through that further, please feel free to jump on my calendar. We can absolutely kind of peel back some of those layers on some of those details.
Yeah, and how to invest, you are absolutely right. There are ways, and we have covered those ways here on this channel as well. There are ways to pay your mortgage with a credit card, and we have that video. If you go in our video section or our live streams, we did it as a live stream, and we also, I think, edited it as a separate video, so it would be shorter, and that's there too. But he's absolutely right. There are many ways to 10, and that's why there can't be rules. He also said, Velocity banking is a concept, not a rule.
Amen.
And that's it. And that's why it's so important that instead of you understanding what to do to enable to deploy velocity banking strategies in your picture, it's more important to understand why it works and be able to identify where your leverage is. Because the second that you graduate into a different stage of velocity banking, I don't even know that it's called velocity banking anymore. It's just called using leverage, working smarter, not harder. That's really what it's called. But if you have already decided that you can't learn this or that this is difficult, the question is ask why, how, ask questions, because you need to know, you deserve to know, you're entitled to know. Matter of fact, again, we think this should have been taught in schools. We think that everyone should have access to this information. And so keep pushing, keep asking why, and learn so that you understand how to identify opportunities that come your way to supercharge your wealth building journey as well.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well said.
Anything else you want to add before we?
No, I think you summed it up very well.
All right. Well, we like to end. Hold on. We can't. Okay, we go. We like to end with, if you didn't come from a wealthy family,
You can make sure a wealthy family comes from you.
so stay tuned,
Stay protected.
stay focused.
Stay connected.
I'm Angelique,
And I'm Donnell.
and our goal is to help you.
Get self-directed.
And to do that, we have a ton of free resources, so don't sleep on those. Go grab them. Go use them. We have 2 free books in there. One of them in particular will change the way you think about your wealth building journey. It will change the way you think about money, probably in general. These are here for you to take advantage of, so we hope you'll do that. And we hope you'll join us next time as we go walk through to and through the velocity banking worksheet and an example of using velocity banking in a completely different profile with different numbers and different variables. If you want to be a part of that and you have a good example for us to use, we also like to do these examples here on our channel too, and use all the examples that we use are straight out of case studies, people that we've helped, and what their consult resulted in, right? So this is now their plan. So if you've got an example and you want to share it with us or walk through it with Donnell, do it. You know, going to these free resources will help you gain access to the calendar, and in addition to all the free resources that we have. I'm trying to read the comments and close down. So thank you all. We know that time is the most valuable asset that we have, and you're spending it here with us, and we can't thank you enough for that. So tune in next time. We would love to see you back here. Till next time. Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you get
Get self-directed.